Good evening, good evening, good evening. We're broadcasting live out of the JParks Consultant Business Solutions page. It's Let's Talk Business, evening edition with Miss Stacey Ntongo. She is a up and coming tech influencer, and she's going to be talking to us about some tech stuff that's going on now and into the future. And Good evening, good evening, good evening. Really excited about We're broadcasting live out of the JParks Consultant Business Solutions page. It's Let's Talk Business, evening edition with Miss Stacey Ntongo. She is a up and coming tech influencer, and she's going to be talking to us about some tech stuff that's going on now and into the future. And Good evening, good evening, good evening. Really excited about We're broadcasting live out of the JParks Consultant Business Solutions. It's Let's Talk Business, evening edition with Miss Stacey Ntongo, a up and coming tech influencer, and she's going to be talking to us about the tech stuff that's going on now and into the future. And Good evening, good evening, good evening. We're broadcasting live out of the JParks Consultant Business Solutions. All right, there we go. How are you?
I'm
Can
good.
You hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I was just telling our audience a little bit about who you are and what we're going to be discussing this evening. And I want to read just what you wrote to me a little bit and what Stacey, we're interviewing Stacey Ntongo. And I think I'm getting feedback. Hold on a second. Let me correct that.
Okay.
Let me correct my feedback here, okay?
No worries.
Okay. Yeah, we've got some feedback for some reason.
It happens, right?
I know, right? Let me correct my feedback here, okay? No worries. Okay, I think I need to X out of this. That's what it is. Hold on, let's try that. Because we're still live. Sometimes when you're recording, you have a tendency to go out and have the page up, and that's where you get that feedback. So
yeah, no,
I think,
for sure.
I think we're good. Yeah, so we're out here with Let's Talk Business Evening Edition with Miss Stacey Ntongo. Am I pronouncing your name correctly, your last name?
Ntongo, yeah. Usually
Just
people
Ntongo.
say Ntongo, yeah, but it's the full Ntongo, yeah.
Okay, but the N is silent.
Yeah, so Ntongo.
Gotcha.
You got it.
And you know what? Let's just talk a little bit about that. I've got a lot of connections in Uganda, and the guys they came on and they inboxed me. Everybody was asking me, she's from Uganda. She's from Uganda. She has her parents or somebody from that is a Ugandan name. Did you know that?
I actually didn't know that, but I know that in Lingala, which is a language that's spoken in Congo, it actually means morning. But I didn't know that it was like a Ugandan background, so I didn't know that.
Right. So your family's from Congo.
Exactly. Yeah.
Real close. Real close.
Yeah, real
okay.
Close.
Awesome. So they were really excited about that. And when you wrote your bio to me, this is what you said. I have been working in the marketing industry for 5 years as a marketing specialist and/or marketing coordinator. You're expected to graduate with a Bachelor of Commerce in 2021. And you're looking to do some work with digital marketing as a digital marketer, a strategist to assist in brand management and enterprise growth, as well as creating execution marketing plans. That's a lot.
It is. Even when you read it right now, I'm like, yeah, that is a lot.
I mean, for real, I mean, that's a lot encapsulated in that little small paragraph. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to introduce to you Miss Tongo, and she's going to tell us her story as it relates to her journey into technology and how she got interested into that, and what school she goes to, et cetera, et cetera. So, take it away. Go ahead,
Perfect.
Stacey.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on your show. Like, I'm super grateful. I think the amazing thing with Zoom is that I was able to meet you through a completely different platform, and we're not even in the same place, which I think is like super amazing. So I'm grateful to have met you, and I'm really grateful to be on the show.
You're welcome.
But in terms of me specifically, so I go to York University, which is in Toronto. I'm expected to graduate in 2021 with my Bachelor of Commerce. Everything right now has been all of my classes and so on and so forth has been through online. So I've been doing things online, and then a lot of different things I've been doing as well as different internships as well, especially because of COVID. We did realize a lot of companies were unfortunately supposed to move to a remote location, which happened with my company as well. Back in March, I was working with a real estate company, and unfortunately, because of the fact that COVID happened and I wasn't really allowed to have client interaction, everything had to be moved to remote. So it was definitely a big transition for me because I've never really been used to working at home. So that was a really big transition for me. But I'm really thankful for that as well, because a lot of different opportunities also came about because of this. And right now I'm working on a couple of different internships from home, but it's definitely been a blessing for me.
Awesome. That is absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so like, tell us a little bit about, I know you were expressing to me an experience that you had when you went to a tech expo. And that was in Toronto, right?
It was. So it was pre-COVID, 2019. I've always been really intrigued by tech, everything that goes with like artificial intelligence and robotics and data science and so on and so forth. That's always been something that's been interesting to me. But I was actually invited to the conference by one of my other managers who I was working as a marketing manager for. And he was kind of like, oh, I got invited to this conference and I kind of need someone to assist me as well with like B2B marketing and e-commerce, so on and so forth. So I was most likely grateful for that opportunity. And that conference was amazing for me because I got the opportunity to watch and kind of like have the conversation with so many different marketing managers and then founders of huge companies. And the one thing that stuck out to me as well as I remember there was this robotics company that was kind of like, oh, we're building a robot that kind of gives the opportunity to help with like mental health. And it kind of helps as a buddy for different kids. Like what they were going to do is that they were going to have robotics in hospitals as well and have them have the opportunity to kind of like interact with kids as well, which I thought was amazing. And for that, I think that I've always wanted to be like a tech-infused entrepreneur, but I think that really set the stone for me. And I was like, this is something that I definitely wanted to do in the future as well. Especially because right now, obviously, I'm sure you're aware, like October is a mental health month as well. So I definitely do think that it does set the stone as well for mental health when it comes to like whether it's data analytics or anything of that nature, like big data and robotics and aerospace and so on and so forth. All of those really have the ability to help with mental health as well and kind of look at maybe like suicide prevention or self-harm prevention as well. And I think one of the amazing things as well with marketing, which is something that I've done in the past as well, is A/B testing. So with A/B testing, I love it. I really love it. But it gives you the opportunity to kind of compare different data from, data 1 and data B or data 1 and data 2 and kind of give you the idea of what's happening and what can be changed for the future. And that has been something that I've always done for marketing, but looking for right now,
well, let me interrupt you there for just a second. Mm-hmm. You were talking, for those of us, that may not understand that jargon, A/B testing. Can you just tell us a little bit about what that's all about?
Yeah, for sure. So it's something, like I said, that I've done through marketing. I had no idea what it was like 2 years ago, but once when I was working for like a translation company, they use a lot of A/B testing. So what they have to do is compare different data. So let's say I'm the marketing manager for a company and they're kind of unsure of how to go with the marketing strategy. And they tell themselves like, okay, we want this specific amount of outreach as well, but then we're unable to reach this amount of people. Is there a reason why? So then something that I would do is that I would do like my research and analysis and so on and so forth, and kind of get an idea of what I can work with. So A/B testing essentially is testing out all of the odds to see what brings out the better results. So it could be applied towards marketing, but then also science, like data science and data analytics and stuff like that. So it's really helpful. It's amazing. I think A/B testing could be used for so many different things, and I'm still doing my research on it, right? Because even though I know so much about tech, like A/B testing is something that takes it's a lot of work, a lot of work, a lot of research. So it's something that I think would most definitely lead towards greater things, whether it's like in the mental health or anything of that nature. So it's definitely a lot of things that I'm excited to be working for.
Okay, so the A stands for analytical.
So A/B testing is basically just like 1 versus 2 or A versus B. That's what it stands for.
So when you're speaking in terms of marketing, which is a big deal with every business, I don't care what kind of business you're in, excuse me, you want to make sure that what you're putting out as a marketing tool is actually being, let's see, getting across to your audience. So would you say that when you do this A/B testing for companies, you're going out looking for information that would best suit them how to market to a certain audience, like from ages 22 to 35, you would go out and do some type of analytical research about what they like to look at in social media, that type of thing.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And like you said, it's really broad. But for me specifically, because I've done it in marketing for so many different companies, it's something that I'm so used to, right? But I think A/B testing goes a long way, not only with the testing, but also research, because you'd obviously have to do like a market analysis and kind of get an idea of, okay, what is my market segmentation, or what is my demographic, or what is my business goals, right? So you wouldn't be able to do A/B testing if you have a broad idea, which is why A/B testing is so broad and so complicated and vast as well.
Wow, that is so interesting. In my other lives, I did data management. And so it was all about data. I mean, you did data entry, worked for the government, that they did a project, which is probably still going on, where they go out and send out surveys to Fortune 500 companies to get the CEO or maybe that person that would agree for us to send out surveys and then put them back into the database for the United States government. They have a program called ONET, ONET, and all it is all kinds of occupational jobs and professions. So people can go to that system and look up any kind of job and get data information back about those jobs. So I'm pretty sure probably they had somebody like you that went out and gathered all this different information as well.
Yeah, it's crazy that you're mentioning that, because recently, like I think it was last week, I had to do a job analysis for one of my different courses, and we were actually using ONET, and I kind of looked at it and I was like,
what?
It's amazing. Yeah, I was using it. That's what like you mentioned now. Like I was using it too.
See, yeah, I work for the actually company here in the Research Triangle Park area here in North Carolina. They've had the contract for years with the government. And so all of us that worked on that project, you had a database, and you could have so many, like thousands and thousands of entries, you know, in that database. So also, Stacey, I wanted to ask you, um, you know, what is your advice to people who want to get into what you're doing or something similar? Because technology is just, we've already gone digital. I mean, digital, we're going beyond digital. I mean, it's probably so much the technology now, moving into 2022, 2021, 2022, is going to be such an astronomical fast pace. Especially, I deal with a lot of people who have small businesses, all right? And also, excuse me, I deal with nonprofits and also different types of ministries. What would on the on to really address those individuals who have, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna choose a 501c3 situation, and that could be any kind of organization. But if you have some type of ministry organization, let's say you have you know, an online ministry, or you have an outreach ministry, or you have a missions ministry, whatever the case may be, there is a business side to that.
Always.
And you have to be on the cutting edge of technology. And I come across some people who are in leadership, they don't get it. You know, they're a little bit behind on the technology. Now, let me say this, with this pandemic situation, everybody has had to step up their game,
I had to
right?
too, yeah.
Right? And so that means across the board, you had to hurry up. If you weren't online, you had to hurry up and get an online presence. You had to make sure TikTok, you know, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook is always, you know, in use, Twitter even, you know. So I want you to just kind of be very upfront and frank about how people in any type of industry need to go for the gusto with technology.
So one of the things that you mentioned is first why people should get into it, or what should be the drive behind it. I would say for me it's deeper than passion, because for me I've always had a relationship with God, and I've always known that for me I wasn't just born, you know, to do something stagnant or something that wasn't really valuable, that didn't really bring any value to me. And I've had so many different jobs in so many different sectors you wouldn't even imagine. Like I was in real estate, I was in retail, I was in hospitality, I was in so many different ones. But what intrigued me the most was kind of getting an idea of what happens in the background. Because I was always in the forefront, where like customer service or like a representative. But for me, I was always like, you know, what happens with marketing? What exactly is marketing? How are they even able to make so much money, but then have so many employees, right? Like there's so much that goes into it. And for me, what my biggest passion, like I said, is I want to make a difference as well, right? I think for me, for being so young and having the ability to understand how these different metrics work, I think that's my biggest drive as well. So I think that anyone who has the ability to understand whether it's marketing, because marketing, I could say marketing, but there's so much to it. There's digital marketing, just like I mentioned, there's A/B testing. There's you can be a marketing manager or coordinator, marketing analysis, or research and development marketing. There's so much to it, right? And that's why I had trouble finding that for me, right? I had trouble being like, okay, you know, I know I'm interested in marketing. I know I'm interested in the background and having the ability to bring any type of environment or any type of business from point A to point B. And I was like, what could I really do? And I feel like it comes a lot with, like I said, like the fact that I had a relationship with God, and I knew that I had a bigger purpose than probably what I thought. And I feel like also what helped as well was not only the conference, but COVID-19 helped a lot. What happened is I was so isolated, because I was like, okay, you know, we're in lockdown. There's not much that I can do. What are different things that I've always wanted to do, but I wasn't able to do before? And one of the things is I've always wanted to do like Photoshop. I was always intrigued in that, like Photoshop and Adobe Premiere, and using different platforms as well to use for marketing. And I started learning about artificial intelligence, and I started learning about data analytics and then big data. And I was like, the more I knew, the more I was more intrigued to know more, because I'm like, it's never ending. Like, it keeps going. And even for now, like, even though like I've had 5+ years of experience, I still consider myself a beginner, because there's just so much. There's so much. Like, marketing for me is very easy, like I said, because I've done it for a long time. But when you bring in the stats and when you bring in all those different formalities, it's humongous. Like, there's humongous amount and of a abundance amount of knowledge that you can know. And it's amazing to me. And I think that's what drives me the most, to know that I'm also able to make a difference. One of the other things as well that I wanted to contribute to was also Africa, right? So we all know, like, Africa has so many resources. We were all aware of it, right? Especially for me, like, my mom was born in Congo. She always used to tell me, like, you wouldn't imagine, like, the amount of resources that we have. And specifically, a lot of different companies, they use Congo as well as like mining and agriculture. I think that's something that's been booming for the past couple of years. And I think for me, I'm seeing that, but I'm like, you can already see that there's a huge difference between Africa and Canada, or Congo and the US, even though Congo has way more resources, right? And I think for me, that's something that motivates me too, like the ability to also help others as well and help them prosper, right? But there's one thing that's been booming as well, especially because we're in Zoom and then we're doing so many online schooling. For me as well, I'm doing online schooling, and my sisters are doing online schooling. There's also personalized learning, where specifically is, you go into them. And I think that's something that they've also been doing in Africa as well, but you go to them and you kind of give them the opportunity to have the ability to excel in high school jobs. I think one of the things with Africa is they're usually more like low skilled, where it doesn't really require much technicalities or much skills as well. But for me, my goal is for them to at least, within the next 10 years, I would say, for the majority of them to be able to be involved in high school jobs, which I know they can. It's just, we've had the opportunities, but there's so much like political resilience or corruption, which is something that we've seen recently in Congo, something that's been happening for like the past couple of days. Like, it's insane. And I think my biggest drive is being able to know that I can make a difference, which is why I started reaching out to like so many different people, whether it's they're in Africa or like the US or different things like that. And for me, it kind of shows the power and the true power of globalization, because you're able to change and have a huge impact sitting, in my living room in Toronto and talking to like the ambassador of, a big company in the US. Like, it's insane. So I think I want to prioritize that as much as I can. So, which is my biggest drive as well.
I love that. And I think that's why we are so umano to umano, because we have such a passion for Africa.
Yeah, it's my heart.
And of course, you and I have talked about that at length. And we talked about some other things about what we're going to partner to do in Africa. I love, love, love what you just said about personalized education.
Yeah.
Because that is something that is so needed, not only in Congo, but in Nigeria and in South Africa and in Uganda and in Kenya, right? And that's something that can be expressed across the board, as a model for all types of areas. So I love, love, love that. We'll have to talk more about that.
We will, for sure.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So the other thing too, Stacey, tell me with what you've experienced, if at all, because we always talk as us being females, we always talk about the challenges of being a female in technology, right? Because I several years ago I was invited to there's a technology group here because of where I'm located. Research Triangle Park, if you know anything about that, is a tech farm. It's a pharmaceutical tech giant, right? Here in this area, medicine, technology, and pharmaceuticals are a big, huge thing. So there is actually a women's group that invited me to a technology forum a few years ago. But I want to hear your perspective on being a woman in the tech field?
It's been a drive. It's been a ride for sure. There's so many different things to say. I think one of the things I've been blessed with the opportunity to work with, I think most of my managers were all female, which is a blessing to me. Recently, I partnered with a company where it's all male, but one of the things that I would say is specifically for marketing, not really including tech, I've always had people kind of surprised of how much I know about technology and marketing. I've always had people say, wow, this is so surprising. And I'm like, is it surprising because I'm a female? Is it surprising because of my age? Like, there's so many different things that come to that, right? And one of the things as well, I've had, like counselors or other people as well tell me, oh, the way you speak is you speak so eloquently, like you'd be good at like, customer service or something in the background where I'm like, you're trying to dim my light in a sense where, like I said, I know that I have a bigger purpose. And even if, there's not, because we already know there's not a huge presence in tech, not only for women, but for Black women as well. It's insane, right? So yes, we're pointing that out too. So I think that, like I said, I want to stand out as well. And I want to be represented as like a pioneer for Black women in technology, right? Which is why you wouldn't imagine, like, even though I'm in school right now, I'm still doing like personalized learning for myself and adult learning for myself when it comes to tech. So I'm kind of juggling the two, but I'm telling myself that it's worth it because we need more women. We need more people who are able to understand the culture. We need more people who are able to be more nurturing and understand clientele perspectives and so on and so forth. And I think that's something that really drives a company. And we've seen it so many times, like you've had huge businesses or corporations with like 2 females and then let alone maybe 1 Black woman, like it's something that isn't really permanent. It's something that we don't see often. And I think for me, that's also my drive as well, being able to know that I can help so many young women as well look at me and say, like she's able to be successful and then be a tech infused entrepreneur. And for me as well, I have sisters and I always tell them like, try to get more into tech because it's going to be very important in the next 5 years. Like I can guarantee it. And one of the different things as well is, like I said, something I find so fascinating is artificial intelligence.
Oh yeah.
Like to me, that is insane. Especially now they're using it for gaming and education. It's insane. And to me, I want to know more and I want to prosper more within that specific field because I know that it's going to benefit me in the future. Because I know that if I'm going to be a marketing coordinator and marketing manager, that it will benefit me to know kind of the idea behind it, right? And one of the things that stuck out to me as well, I'm just going to mention again, is the Collision conference I attended last year. I had one of the speakers, he said something to me that was always so important to me. And he said, diversification is key to success. And I think that that's something that's really prominent right now because you could know, for me, for example, I could know everything about marketing and be like, this is suitable for me. I know everything about marketing. I don't need to know much. But if I know marketing and then robotics and then gaming and then education and healthcare,
wow.
in situations like this, we see it in COVID. We see it where you would see on LinkedIn people who have like 10 plus years of experience looking for jobs because they lost their job because of COVID. Right. And now they're having difficulty with the ability to kind of outreach and get the ability to actually have a job because they're so limited. But you could have someone with like 3 years of experience, but who's worked with a med company that's worked in the healthcare and that's worked with different nonprofit organizations have a better shot than that person for 10 years. And I think that's something that I want to be an advocate for. Like I'm always telling people, like, if you're able to learn more, do it, because you can't really be in, a stagnant mode. You always need to keep rolling. So that's what I usually tell people.
Exactly. I love that because the more you have had, even if you've only had a couple of years in each one of those categories, that's experience that puts you above and beyond anybody else that will come to the table because you're diverse. You have diversity, like the gentleman told you. And anytime you have different areas of giftings and anointings, that's what they are. Because I mean, if you look at an individual, like you just said, I mean, You know, if you have different, like if you look at someone's background and they've had experience, like you said, in medicine, all types, and medicine is just crazy, as you said, with technology.
So crazy. It is, yeah.
Oh, wow. And you know, then you've had experience with digital marketing, social media platforms, all of them, how to market on social media, how to make, you know, interactive, you know, commercials or ads with technology. I mean, it's so much stuff that, you know, you could be exposed to that would be appealing to those companies that need all of that. They need all of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, they do. And I've
Yeah.
noticed it too. Yeah.
I mean, you can just watch the commercials, like if you're into football or basketball or whatever, look at the commercials. Those guys who do those interactive commercials for those sports events, any type of commercial you see, that's technology.
It's all
Uh,
that's yeah, that's exactly, it's all technology and it's all marketing. That's why it's also, it's important to know marketing obviously, but there's so much that you can know where it's like you do a marketing analysis, but you'd also have to implement different ideas, right? Which is where your other knowledge comes in, because it can't just be marketing. Let's say, you know, like my manager comes up to me and says, I want you to create something where our consumers are able to sit down and they interact with us through the TV, through a commercial. If you're not knowledgeable in anything that has to do with tech, in that case, it could be a mix of artificial intelligence as well as maybe data analytics as well. Like there's so many different things. And if you're not knowledgeable in that, then he'll probably be like, oh yeah, you know, I'm sure I can hire another team, but what would be the point of hiring a team if you can have one person do the job because they know everything? So
right.
I think it's really important.
And you know, and that, and what you would be bringing to the table would be cost effective. You're saving
Exactly.
you're saving, let's say you could save the company a couple of $100,000. That's going to be money in your pocket, because that's a
Exactly.
leverage, that's a look, that's a negotiative, if that's a word. You can come to the table and negotiate your salary according to how much money you're going to save the company.
Exactly. No,
And you,
it's a lot. And I think especially because of COVID as well, because of, you know, a lot of companies are losing, you know, the companies or people are losing their jobs. A lot of people are kind of starting to notice like, okay, we don't have the budget for a big team. Who here is able to do A, B, C, D instead of A? You know, that's something that they're always looking at as well. And I've seen it with a lot of companies. I've seen some of people, you know, on LinkedIn losing their jobs because they had so much experience, but they were knowledgeable in what's to come next, right? So it's unfortunate, but I think it kind of gets us going. And I think that if you're, you know, traditional school, for example, for me, like I go to university and I'm supposed to be graduating next year with the Bachelor of Commerce. If I were just to simply do that and then go into my field, I wouldn't survive in the next 5 years, because the future of jobs like pre-COVID is completely changing. And
oh my,
people are starting to realize, like, I think it's either Twitter or Amazon. I believe it's Twitter, but Twitter said that all of the workers are now going to be working remotely. And you would have never heard that last year.
now
And I
wait a
had a
minute,
course where
wait a
we were
minute,
talking about
wait a minute.
this.
So repeat what you just said for the audience and for me, but repeat what you just said.
So Twitter basically said that they understand, you know, everything that's been going on with COVID. So they said that all of their employees are now going to be working remotely.
Boom, drop the mic.
Exactly.
Just,
Yeah.
and in order to do that, tell them how they're going to be able to do that with
With
technology.
technology, and then having, yeah, exactly. It's like one word, technology, and there's so much that goes with it. And imagine if, you know, they had workers that weren't familiar with like technology, like they wouldn't have the choice but to unfortunately let those people go. So it goes a long way. And thankfully there's so many different platforms online. Like I use Udemy, and then there's EDX, and then there's HubSpot. There's so many different platforms where you can take different courses online for free. I've earned a couple of my certificates through HubSpot, and then Google also offers some. Google has Google Analytics and Google Ads, I believe, where I've had both certificates. Like it's amazing to know that we have the opportunity to have these platforms for free. So I think that people should take advantage of these platforms. And even if you're not in marketing, or even if, let's say you're not really interested in tech, or you're interested in healthcare, I think it's always prominent. It's always important for someone to know what tech is, because at one point it is going to take over, especially because a lot of companies are now remotes. And you have to get used to tech, and you have to get used to the technological evolution as well. So all of that matters.
You know what, Stacey, I'm going to have you back because I want you to come back and teach a training on those platforms that you just talked about that are free, because a lot of people don't know. And
Yeah.
that's what this platform for me is all about, is to bring people on that will give information that will help other people go to the next level, whether it be in education, with their business, however that may be, by any means necessary. And that right there, what you just said, I guarantee you, practically everybody that's going to be listening to this has no clue about those different platforms that you can go out and get a certificate for free.
Yeah, no, trust me. I think right now I'm working on my 4th certificate. I haven't paid anything.
Oh yeah, yeah. I want you to come back and do a class and teach. I have some business women out of Kenya that I would love for you to come on, and we can actually do an interactive with Zoom, and then go out to those platforms and just show them what they need to do. I think that would be awesome. I
No,
think that
I'll
would.
definitely do it. And the interesting is as well with these different platforms, I think specifically for HubSpot, what they do is they specialize in marketing, but you would have never known that they also have the HubSpot Academy. Just like Google, you go on Google and you're like, oh yeah, I just want to Google this. But if you search up Google Academy, there's a list of different classes that you can take. I think even Microsoft has some. Like, I think Amazon also wants to implement that as well, which is something that I think is amazing, because it is personalized learning and it is adult learning as well, where you're kind of taking hand of your career and you're giving yourself the ability to have external knowledge, or whatever it is, whether it's marketing or tech or anything like that. You're giving yourself that extra knowledge for free. A couple of them are paid. I haven't paid anything. I think it's more if it's more precise. So it does depend on what you choose, but I'll definitely be honored to come back and teach some people about it as well, because I had to do my research. It was a lot, but obviously if I did hours of research and I'm giving someone the ability to have all of that like within a matter of an hour, then I'm absolutely grateful for that, and I'm definitely interested in coming back.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, listen, I mean, I think unless you have something else you wanted to cover, is there anything else you wanted to bring out during this time together this evening?
One of the things that I wanted to bring out as well is I've had some people ask, I think I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I've had some people ask me before, like, how were you able to know so much at such a young age, right? And I think one of the most amazing things for me was having the ability to have a really good platform that has the ability to have external networks, or
Mm,
doing networking, for example. For LinkedIn, I think that people of my age, or anyone in general, should be prioritizing LinkedIn, because I've met some of the most amazing people through LinkedIn. Like, the position right now, the internship that I have right now, I met them through LinkedIn. The manager that I went to the Collision conference with, I met him through LinkedIn. My very first business coordinator job that I had at 17, I met her through LinkedIn. So I think that people should be prioritizing that as well. There's also the fact that there's so many global conferences happening. And I know there were so many that I wanted to attend last year, because a couple of them were in Europe. But right now, because everything is online, they should definitely take advantage of that as well. And I think doing that as well, and kind of working on your networking and kind of giving yourself the idea of what you want in a career is always helpful. Because for me, if you had told me like 7 years ago, oh, you're going to be tech infused and you're going to be in marketing, I would have laughed, because originally I went to school for psychology. I had no plan on doing marketing, or
wow.
I had no plan at all. So I was like, psychology, yeah. And I think it's really interesting to know about, how the brain works and so on and so forth. But I had a change of heart where I was like, marketing is so innovative. Why do I not just hop on it and kind of see where it goes? And from there on, I kind of just did my own thing, and now we're here.
Right. I love that. I love that. Yeah, I mean, being on as many networking platforms as you can, but LinkedIn is definitely something that everybody should, and a lot of people think they're afraid of it, but you can just go out and do a one page out there on LinkedIn and, just start feeling around, seeing, I think it's amazing to be able to reach out to people you don't know that have similar interests to you, or either at least, a parallel. You might someday, come together and collaborate about something. That's what it's all about.
And I
You know,
think it also helps. It also helps during this time because obviously, we are. Well, I don't know about you, but here in Toronto, like we're back in lockdown for like 28 days. So then I'm basically stuck with my family, which is always a blessing. But then in these moments, I'm like, I can't see my friends, I can't see my coworkers. What can I really do? So then having the ability to reach out to people you don't know is not only for your career, and I feel like a lot of people think it's always career based, but it's also for your mental health. Having the ability to speak to others and having, even though it's not a face-to-face interaction, at least having the ability to speak to someone about anything. And I think one of those most amazing things as well is that even though everything is shutting down, for mental health as well, I think for mental health professionals, even though you can't really see them in person, they do give you the ability to do Zoom meetings as well, or like phone calls as well, which is amazing. So I think that, we're in lockdown, but there's just so much potential to reach out to people that you may even know are waiting for you to reach out to them.
right, right, right. I wanted to ask you one more thing. Yeah, I know you talked about the Collision Conference, but like we've been talking about, a lot of different companies have had to reset and regroup about how they do things, and Zoom and other platforms, OBS and all kinds of Be Live. I don't know if you've ever heard of Be Live or
No.
not, but excuse me. But I was wondering, have you heard of any other conference? I know it's the end of the year now, maybe it won't be till next year, but doing an online conference for technology.
One of the things that I'm actually really looking forward to is Africa Tech Summit, which is, I believe, October 20th until October 22nd. It's been happening for 10 years. I've never attended it, obviously, because it's all the way in Africa. But now we get the opportunity for this first time to actually see it online, which is something that I'm looking forward to as well, because I believe it's going to be very similar to the Collision Conference. But what they're having is they have the ability to have different conferences, and not only is it about tech, but they're also bringing young entrepreneurs in Africa
Wow.
who, yeah, it's amazing. And I've heard about it before, but I've never been able to attend. But now that it's online, that's something that I definitely want to attend,
Me too.
especially because we talked about the fact that I'm interested in kind of seeing how tech works in Africa. And then I know that they really go with like mining and agriculture and so on and so forth, but there's so much potential. So I think Africa Tech Summit is something that you should definitely be looking forward
Wow.
to.
And so
Yeah.
it's October 20th, just for
Yeah,
one day.
October 20th until so October 20th until October 22nd.
Oh, okay. So you have to register. Is there a fee? Do you know?
I didn't look at the fee yet, but I think I'm willing to pay for the fee because
Yeah.
I've always wanted to go and I'm like, I need to go.
I'm going to check that out tonight. Oh, thank you
Yeah.
so much. We'll have to pass that on out. When I get the link, what I'll do after this post on Facebook, I'll go out, copy the link for people so they can also register as well. And then what we'll